allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackson, give the invocation, please. Let me bow. Father, we thank you for this evening, for all that are here, and we ask that you be with us tonight and help us go through this agenda and accomplish great things for our city. All these things we pray in your name. Amen.
I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Appreciate you being here. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a couple of changes to the consent agenda. And the reasoning is that when we vote yes, it really doesn't clarify what we're voting in there. And my recommendations for changes is that we pull item A out for a separate vote. We change the word on item B to approve instead of action. Approve Mark Robilard's contract. Item C also to the word approve. Item D, change the word action to accept. And item E, we can put approve award contract to Still Construction Company for Reservoir Drive paving bids. And then when we're voting for it, this reflects, in my opinion, reflects what we're actually voting for.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
maybe run that again, because I got it.
Okay, the first one I believe, Mr. Cummings, was you wanted to take the reservoir building off.
Yeah,
For
have a
further
separate
discussion.
motion. Separate motion.
And item B, you wanted to, instead of action on, you wanted to approve Mark Robillard Architect's contract.
Correct.
Item C, you wanted to approve copier release agreement instead of action on.
Correct.
Item D, accept recommendation for water tank maintenance.
Correct.
And item E, approve and award the contract to
Still Construction.
Still Construction.
Mayor,
Yes.
isn't D also the approval of a contract? The recommendation is to accept the contract. That one should be changed to specify the contract we're approving.
All right,
Approve contract with, I don't remember the name of the company, but
I'm fine with that. It's just that when we do this consent agenda, when we come with a yes and a no, that the wording on that consent agenda should indicate what we are voting for or against.
Steel construction.
Well, if you change the wording on E to approve reservoir driveway paving contract,
it would be best to name the company so that we have a nice record.
Yeah, I think still construction was a little better.
Why don't we just take all three of these out and make separate votes instead of trying to worry about the wording?
You're gonna have to change the agenda items one way or the other, so. I mean,
Doesn't matter to me, it's just that,
Either change the agenda item or you gotta make a motion, so.
yeah,
Same up.
pull them out the same way, either way. Doesn't matter to me, it's just that,
Well, now we've got, you don't want to pull off Robillard Architects, right?
well, you could and make a separate motion on that too.
Well, I hate to pull every one of those off there, you know? I don't know why we can't
we
leave,
should have approved them already.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I think we ought to just leave the item B and just change the wording to approve Robillard contract for renovation of the future council chambers, and approve the copier lease, and approve the contract with, who's the tank maintenance with?
Utility services, is that right, Dave? Utility service?
Utility service.
Utility service.
Okay, approve the contract with utility services and approve the contract with Steel Construction for the driveway paving bids.
Now, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You had, I sent you an email on the CIE that was on the agenda that was left off this agenda.
Yeah.
CIE and, what was the other one?
LCI.
LCI, yeah. And I think those could go on the consent because you,
We not voted on the work session. We voted on some things at the work session.
you didn't vote on those.
Okay.
Didn't vote on
Okay, how do you want to word item F on the consent agenda? Since we did talk about those. Mr. Patton, can you lend some assistance here?
Approve resolution to transmit 5-year update for LCI
Approve resolution to transmit
5-year update,
five-year update
Livable Centers Initiative, LCI.
to the DCA.
That one goes to ARC.
What about CIE?
Okay, the second one would be resolution to adopt amended capital improvements element, or CIE, and 5-year short-term work program for the impact fee program. That goes to both ARC and DCA.
That's gotta be item G.
Yes.
Ken, was that specific wording on the work session agenda 2 weeks ago?
It said discussion of each of those
Yeah,
items
but
2 weeks
that wording
ago.
was there.
Yes, sir.
G, resolution to adopt the capital improvements element and 5-year work program
Yes, sir.
of the impact fee. Is that right?
No, it was the approved resolution to transmit the 5-year update.
That's it.
And then the resolution to adopt amended CIE and 5-year short-term work program.
Okay. Does everybody have those? Okay.
They were on.
We had a motion we have a motion to make all those amendments or to approve the consent agenda with those amendments.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, any other discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Took a while, but we got rid of all those.
under old business,
Yes.
we need to add the loss claim acquisition as far as the maintenance fees.
Okay, add that under F. Gloves. Contract for land.
I think you've already approved the contract for land. What you need to decide is the question of the common area fee.
HOA fees.
Common area fees.
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, do I have we have a motion to amend the agenda with that respect too, so that's a different one, so. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay. So that's added as F. Anything else? All right. If not, we will move forward with a 10-minute public input period. Do we have anyone? No, okay. You have the minutes of the February the 7th council meeting in your agenda package. Are there any changes or corrections to be made? If not, I'm sorry. Yes.
There is a item there that's all January, and it should be February, some of those dates. Under old business B, item will be replaced on the consent, will be placed on the consent agenda for February 21st.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Item C, same. Let's see here. Item under new business, it will be item F, G, H. Or actually, probably it's E, F, and G, I should say, excuse me. All of them are February.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, not, I'll entertain a motion, we approve the minutes as amended.
So,
A motion and a second, any other discussion? Discussions?
I was hoping Mr. Bryant be here, but he's not here. I wanted to make an apology to Mr. Bryant. The last meeting, I attempted to change the minutes, and I was incorrect in trying to do so. It is what Mr. Bryant said, and my alteration would have been inappropriate, and I wanted to apologize to him. Since I did it in public, I'll make a public apology. My disagreement was with the factual part of the statement, not that he had made the statement, but I was incorrect in trying to do that, so.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to to approve those minutes as amended. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. All right, let's see here. I think we've already approved the consent agenda, a little bit out of order, but we did it, didn't we? Item 8, old business discussion.
7A was pulled out as a separate item from the consent agenda, excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go back to 7A that was pulled out. Action on reservoir operation building contract bids. And that's attachment 2 in your package there. Mr. Cummings?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we award the contract to, I believe it's Benchmark.
Benchmark, custom.
Yeah.
And in an amount,
Well, I think it's just over 400,000. The motion is to award the contract to Benchmark, whatever their last name, Tidwell, is it, or what? Tuscany. Tuscany, minus the 2 optional items. And once the contract is awarded, with the intention of Mr. Wood conducting value engineering to see if there are other savings that could be incurred.
all right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion?
We need to put down the exact
I believe the
amount.
amount.
$400,350.
$400,350 is the contract amount. Anything else? Other discussion?
Well, the only other question I would have is if there's value engineering done after, and then conceivably the price would be reduced, do we need to have Mr. Dyer look at the contract before?
You have 2 options on that. One, you can go ahead and authorize the mayor to sign a contract upon approval by me,
Okay.
or we can just bring the contract back for vote.
I would like to amend the motion to have the on approval part, so that the mayor sign the contract after it's approved by Mr.
Even if the amount, so long as the amount is equal to or less than the 400,350.
Yeah.
So it will not have to come back to council.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. All right, now we jump down to old business, item 8A, discussion and possible action on amendment to Canton Code Section 2-90 regarding decorum. Mr. Rush, everybody has this in their
Right,
agenda package.
this is the, make a motion to approve the amendment to the Canton Code section regarding the section 290 regarding decorum. I think we discussed it.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was looking at the website this afternoon, and in one section, we do have the quorum, and it mentions section 2-51. And I do believe we need to make sure that, stick on the public participation part, that they coincide with what we're recommending.
I don't think I understand.
251, Susan, which,
I don't have that one
I think the decorum section only refers to the interchange among council, has nothing to do with public input.
I think 2-51 was the old number. It's 290 now.
okay.
I think we're amending that one, it's got a different number.
Okay.
That's what it used to be numbered, that's what I'm trying to say.
Any other questions, comments? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Okay. Discussion and action on citywide committee slate. These are the recommended appointments to the various committees and boards that we have, of those which are currently up for appointment or replacement at this time. I think it's kind of slow because there was a lot of names in here, many of which you know, have not changed certainly. We'll start, I think everyone has a copy of this, and the first list is that of the Development Authority, which there were no slots open at this time on that one. Under the Housing Authority, I had recommended the following: Pat Tanner to be appointed, and we met, or not met, but actually spoke with the Housing Authority about restructuring these terms so that they would end this past December 31st, and they will be 5-year terms, but we staggered them so that there's like, there's 2 for like 5 years, 2 for 3, and 1 for 2, I believe. So that in the future, we'll be able to know, you know, when those terms ends, because we were told that one of them ended on March 14th, one of them something on the 10th, and this sort of thing was just kind of got out of line. I think at some point something happened and they got out of line. A combination of efforts between, I think, the Housing Authority and the city. But this should put that in line and make it work. There's, I want to recommend that Pat Tanner to begin 1/1/2013 and 12/31/17. I would like to recommend Will Hattendorf be reappointed. I would recommend that Clayton Reed be reappointed, George Moore be reappointed, and that Dolores Hurd be reappointed. That is the Housing Authority. Mr. Beresford and I spoke earlier. I spoke to the director of the Housing Authority, and she indicated that Ms. Hurd had requested to accept it to stay on there. So that would be the recommendations that I have. If there is, I would, you know, entertain a motion to approve those as, or we can pick them one at a time and go over them. But these, I think, would be. That was changed. Yeah. Yes.
Well, if you want to back up in Downtown Development Authority, on your recommendation, just say so moved.
Okay, well, I no need to nominate on them because none of them are up.
Okay.
That's the reason I didn't do that.
But I noticed that the date is June the 30th.
Right.
Now, is that the correct date?
That's the correct date on that.
Okay.
That's what I understand.
Because it was scattered all over the lot.
Well, yeah, but all of, you know, July 1st is a good cutoff point, and December 31st.
No, that's fine.
And this will be June 30th. There'll be Zach Kell, Rebecca Johnston, Sam Rogers, and Doug Key, and we'll be up in 13 at June 30th. So we'll need to make some appointments, reappointments or replacements at that time. Do I have a motion that we approve those members of the Housing Authority?
So moved.
Yep, second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Under the Canton Development Authority, there are no terms that are up at this point. There will be several. There will be 3 at the end of 12/31/13. The Canton Building Authority also, there will be 2 at the end of 12/31/13, but we don't have any at this point. Under the Urban Redevelopment Agency.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Under the Canton Building
Oh,
Authority.
I do apologize. We did, I did make a change on that one because, one thing that our charter says that unless specifically stated in the authorization for one of these committees or authorities that the council members may serve, basically our charter says that council members are not allowed on those committees, to serve on those committees. So Jack Goodman was on that one. Jack, we've asked David Resendez to accept that slot. And David is actually here tonight. We appreciate him being here. Raise your hand, actually, I guess, so that everybody knows who you are. And we appreciate you being willing to serve on that. John, I apologize for skipping over that one. I made a bad note, but I made so many notes on these, so wondering I can tell anything about them.
I use highlighter.
Okay. We would need a motion, actually, on David. We don't, he'd be the only one we would need a motion and a second on to, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Okay. And that would be a term be ending 12/31/15. Let's see here. Under urban redevelopment agencies, I'm recommending that we reappoint Tommy Justice, Mr. Andy Alexander, David Resendez for that, also on that slot. He will be replacing Glenn Cummins, who had been occupying that, and we're kind of straightening all this out. Recommend the appointment of Derek Grimes and the appointment of Clay Cowie, if that's pronounced right. Would those of you who had nominated Derek, would you want to tell us a little bit about Derek?
He's a very active person in our community. He has a, he's a good homework.
Okay.
Good citizen.
Okay. And Clay?
Yeah, Clay is a fireman in Woodstock.
Okay.
He's a resident here in Canton. He's been a longtime resident and currently lives, like I say, within the area. He is looking forward to be involved and get activity within the city.
Is he here tonight? Okay.
Might be,
All right.
and Derek Grimes.
Yeah, Derek's not here though, right?
I don't see,
Yeah. Okay. Under
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry. Oh, God,
you
okay.
need a motion on that, and also on it's annual terms, so it's a
Right.
12-month program. Are we looking at the end of?
12/31/13.
12/31/13.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
The only one there, we do need a motion to appoint the entire slate there, which is Justice, Alexander, Resendez, Grimes, and Cowie.
So moved.
Have a motion, say any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Under the Canton Preservation, Inc., I'm recommending the reappointment of Nell Magruder, the reappointment of Jack Whitmire, and the appointment of Stephanie Joyner. Is there any, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Okay, annual terms for, those are also annual terms. Annual terms next for Canton Tourism, Inc. I'm recommending the reappointment of Pat Gold, reappointment of Bill Magruder, reappointment of Joyce Swindell, the reappointment of George Murphy, the reappointment of Francis Vaughn, and the additional appointment of Jennifer Wyatt to be an additional member to that. Now, I believe, Mr. Beresford, you mentioned her. You want to tell us a little bit about her? Is she here? Oh, wait, there you are. Okay. We're glad to have you. So, that's a pretty active group, I got to tell you. It's a pretty active group, and they do a lot of good.
I would like to say that she is a resident here in Canton. She is involved with, she graduated from Cherokee High. She attended tech school, Chattahoochee. She has 4 boys, aged from 12 to 21. Active in the community of Whispering Hills subdivision. Also active with kids schools. Had worked for the city, the water department, some years ago, and is currently working at Target.
Okay. We appreciate you being willing to participate there. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion that we approve that slate of nominees? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Under the Tree City of Canton, I'm recommending the reappointment of Linda. These are staggered 4-year terms, I'm sorry. The only one on that one that is up is currently Jack Goodwin's slot as a elected official was on there, and so we aren't changing those. So we're just replacing him to finish out the term. We're replacing, or not recommending he be replaced with Stephen Lewitt to finish out the term that Jack was serving, which will go through 12/31/15. Any other? That's the only item on that one there that we need to deal with, I believe.
I would just like to point out that Stephen Witt is, lives in the city, runs his own business in the landscaping business, and interested in being active in the city, lives down in the Prominence Point area.
Very good. Prominence Point. Okay.
I'd like to say that community, that committee is very involved, and they do a great job to beautify the city. Good hard workers.
Oh, yeah.
And we just had an excellent
Arbor Day.
Yes.
Arbor Day, so.
They do a great job.
Okay. Under planning and zoning, okay, got to vote for Stephen Lewitt. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second that we appoint Stephen Lewitt to the Tree City of Canton to replace Councilmember Jack Goodwin. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Planning Commission, Planning and Zoning Committee there is none are up at this point. The Zoning Board of Appeals or the Variance Board, there's none up. There will be several, as there will be in the Planning Commission up at the end of 2013. All right, then we have the Stormwater Advisory Board. I recommend the reappointment of James Shellman. Reappointment of Jack Fincher. I'm recommending the appointment of Howard Levy to replace John Beresford as an elected official on there. The reappointment of Steve Paget. I'm recommending the reappointment of Skip Spears, reappointment of Ben Key, and the reappointment of Bill Kent. Do I have...
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to take Mr. Spears off and appoint Mr. Bruce Hare.
Okay. What we will need to do is, are you making a motion that we reject Skip Spears?
Yes.
I have a motion to reject Mr. Spears. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I will just do these one at a time. Mr. Goodman, do you vote to reject Skip Spears or to approve his nomination? Approve.
Reject.
Reject.
Approve. Reject.
Reject.
Okay, that is rejected. Now, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Bruce Hare.
Got a motion to approve Bruce Ayer.
Second.
Have a second. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Now, that was, we need to also, I guess, have a motion to approve the balance of those approval of nominations with Mr. Beresford being replaced by Howard Levy. We have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion.
Mr. Mayor, again,
Yes.
this is Daniel, and we're
It is.
talking 12/31/13.
13. Yes, sir. The Library Board appointee is not up at this point. The Canton Main Street Board, I am recommending that we have the reappointment. Was that? Well, I was going to be courteous and let them know, but he was just making the point that under their bylaws, the mayor makes those appointments without consent of the council.
That's Main Street?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
go ahead, get it in.
I just have one question. Which takes precedence, their bylaws or the charter?
They're not a city department. They're a
So
whole separate-
so their bylaws rule.
They decided how their members were picked.
Okay.
And they chose the mayor to nominate, so.
So that's the way it is.
I certainly will announce that my recommendation has been to reappoint Bill Grant, whose term was ending, Ferris Yawn, Pat Gold, Stephanie Joyner, and Elma Gruder, and Wanda Roach, which are those who are now serving.
Okay.
Now,
I wanted to go back to the question that you had. You said they're what?
Their bylaws.
Well, I know they're bylaws, but do they represent the city of Canton?
They are not a city department. It's a separate nonprofit corporation that exists, and their bylaws can be amended by the board. When it was created, the bylaws were adopted, so that decision was made how the board members were selected.
Okay.
And their bylaws say the mayor selects, and it doesn't require city council approval.
Okay.
City cannot tell them how to do that. That's
Right, and there's no funding from the city.
unless the city council does it.
well, that can be funding, certainly.
Well,
And in fact, some level of support is required to maintain the approval from the DCA. So the city has to support it in some way for the Main Street recognition.
Well, how does this differ from Canton Tourism? It's also a nonprofit.
I've never seen anything with Canton Tourism, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
If it was organized separately, it should have its own bylaws, but I don't know how that was created. I don't know anything about that.
Also, I just want to go on record that I supported your slate.
Well, I knew what he was going to say before I brought it tonight, and I wanted to at least bring it before you for your concurrence. Thank you for concurring.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question, it's just merely a question. If this is not a city organization and the city has no, except for the mayor appointing as per their bylaws, the Main Street Director, is that just a position on this board, or is this the person that's in charge of the board? And if so, why would that person be on the city payroll?
I don't know those because I wasn't around when it started, so I don't know how it happened, but it could be that the city provides an employee as the show of support. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, the bylaws actually say how the program director is selected, and it's not selected by the city, so we may not be operating under the bylaws as to the program director, but that's up to them. They decide that. But my understanding was that was the way the city was supporting it. The city could just give the money to them, and they could hire it. That'd be another way to do it. But that was just the way it was started.
Okay, anything else? All right, under the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, the recommendation there is that we appoint David Allens to replace Jack Goodman on that one as an elected official. Reappoint Mr. Glenn Bliss, reappoint James Bagwell, reappoint Doug Williams, and reappoint George McClure.
So moved.
Have a motion, and have a second. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
When do they meet? Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Ken, how often do they meet? Once or twice a year or something like that? They don't meet very often.
On an as-needed basis, when something comes up in regard to the impact fee program.
Some of the appeals are they deal with appeals by a property owner who thinks they're being overcharged or should not be charged.
Yes.
I just want to say that I think we have done something here tonight that is moving in the right direction. We have involved city residents outside of the group that we've had for a number of years who have done an excellent job, has supported the city and been very involved in the city, and we want to thank them very much. But also, it's great to see that we do have citizens who are interested in becoming involved in the city, and I think it's something we should continue to pursue. So, thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay. All right, Mr. Bryan is not here tonight, but the discussion of the council meeting format. Do we want to move that, post on that?
Yes. Defer that to the work session.
Okay, we defer that to the March 7th work session. That'll be fine. All right. Item D, second reading and vote on action city charter 2-35J, granting the mayor power to appoint an administrative assistant. Mr. Bryan's not here either, but that is sort of a moot point to some degree at this time. Mr. Cummings?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the amendment to the city charter, section 2-35.
Jay? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Good second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'm sorry. What this is a motion which would allow the mayor to have an administrative assistant, but in view of the fact that the funding has been removed from that, like I said, it's sort of a moot point. You know, funding would have to be restored if this passed for anything to happen anyway. So, but whatever you want to do. Okay, do we have I'm sorry.
We have a
open for
motion.
discussion at this point, Mr. Cummings.
The only thing this does is the funding may have been removed for this budget year, but during the budgeting process, there could be a decision made to fund this, and therefore having it within the charter allows us to fund it. It doesn't say that we would fund it going forward or that we wouldn't, but without it there, we don't have the option of funding it.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
Question.
Yes.
The yes vote is to have that remain in the charter.
Actually, to put that in the charter.
Put that in.
It's not in the charter.
Okay. And a no vote is to
Not to put it in there.
not to put it in. We had confusion the last time.
We had what?
We had confusion.
Yeah.
Confusion on this.
Yeah.
Clarification from our attorney. The motion was for approval.
Motion was to adopt it.
Adopt.
Correct.
Add it to the charter.
Add it to the charter.
It was actually adopted last month, so this will be the second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, we'll go around, we'll just have a voice vote on this. Mr. Huffman?
I was confused last time. I reject, no.
No. Mr. Beasley?
No.
Okay. Mr. Cummings?
Yes?
No.
Okay. Motion fails. Okay, discussion of the fire bond referendum, Mr. Bearsford?
Yes, sir, thank you. We have out on the website documentation, and I do have some pass outs here if anybody would be interested in getting a copy of it. And it gives you details on what the fire bond referendum is referring to. It also tells you what we're looking for capital improvements, and also it gives you what it will impact the citizens here in the city as far as what monies they might have to pay in for passing the bond, and also under the operation side of it. So if anybody would like to pick one up, that would be fantastic.
You said it's on the website?
It's on the website.
Okay.
And it's important that we support this because we have decided that we will keep our fire department within the city, and therefore we do need to have additional stations. Talking with a number of the citizens, I found that interesting. I would ask them, how many fire departments or stations do we have here in the city? And every one of them came up with a 4 or 5. And when I broke the news to them that we have 2, they said, "You're kidding." I said, "No, it's the real world situation. The city this size has 2. So people who do not need the services of our fire department do not think in terms of it's there. They know it's there, the fire department's there, that's the extent. But what we have to do is get out the message that we do need this additional support. And that's what the website has, that's what this is for here, if anybody'd like to pick that up. And so, again, I think basically the council is in support of this. I would ask that, based off of the comment, I'm going to put you on the spot, Mr. Mayor, which you weren't surprised, I'm sure. But in the comment, under your vision for the city and your update, you referred to purchasing of 20 acres along Bluffs Parkway for recreation and possible fire station. That's what we're looking at, put the fire station. So it's not possible, it's something we gotta have. So I'm just saying, you are supporting the bond.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know that I'm supporting the referendum.
Referendum.
The people's right to choose one way or the other. I do support that, for sure. I think that, we may have a question here if we go into whether or not this council is urging people to vote for or against it. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I understand. And in a spirit of understanding, the council has decided that that's what we need. So in that spirit, I would say, what you do in the booth is up to you.
Absolutely.
But what you do as far as stepping up and saying, yeah, we need it, I think that's what we need. A lot of people respect you, of course, and look for your guidance.
I do speak to people one-on-one. I'm happy to do that, but there is a little bit of concern, as you know, some of the stuff that's been going on lately with other county school boards and stuff, supporting issues and bond referendums that are up there, that are out, and there's a question about whether or not they can actually do that. They've been challenged, and I'm not sure what the outcome, Bob. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about or not, but it's been questioned, and I think it has to do with
The city can't spend money advocating.
Right.
One way or the other.
So
Now,
if I
don't know if that means individually, you can't say anything. I know the city can't spend money on it. I don't know the answer about
Right.
So, Mr. Mayor, does that mean anything that you bring up that you are for, that you, therefore, from this point forward, you can't have an opinion?
I think it
Just
probably
referendums.
would be referendums, not just an issue. Once you decide you're gonna put it out in front of the voters to make that decision, you've said, okay, we want you to make that decision. We're not gonna make that decision for you. You're gonna make that decision one way or the other. And what I was concerned a little bit about, and I don't disagree with what you were aiming for there, but basically it says public funds and resources may not be spent directly or indirectly to promote a referendum. And public funds and resources include money, government property, and services of public employees while working. I get the feeling we're supposed to be working right now, and that we are getting paid for this time we're here. And if we promote that, we may be violating at least the spirit of that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I had a dilemma with that, and I went out and actually got legal advice. And I was told that as an individual, I can support it either way, as an individual, that I do not abdicate my individual citizen's right, but that I should avoid a collective decision telling voters how to vote. And that was the advice that I got. So, I mean, I don't know if that...
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, could I step down and be a citizen?
can you, as an elected official, remove yourself from being an elected official?
Well, and I'm not sure, I don't know the answer to the question of whether an elected official is allowed to advocate. I suspect an elected official is allowed to. Employees are allowed to on their own time. They just can't do it during work hours. So nobody's prohibited from advocating. You just can't do it while you're
On the clock.
being paid by the city.
So are the fact that we get a nominal pay, are we elected officials or are we employees?
Like I said, I don't know the answer to the question. You're not an employee, but whether as a body you can't or not, I really don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Barrett.
Here's the answer. Mr. Huffman and I attended at the mayor's conference back in January, the municipal law. And therefore, if that is true, we could not have voted to have the bond referendum. Because what we did, we approved of having a bond referendum. Therefore, we approved of doing this, which shows the approval of having the citizens make a decision. So therefore, you stepped over the line, we stepped over the line, or 5 of us did, when we voted for that referendum.
And we
So
spent money.
And we spent money. So it gets sticky when you try to, I withdraw my question. I got your answer, I withdraw my question.
Okay.
But for the record, I made the statement.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Then, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if this is on the website, am I permitted to read it?
You can't the city can't.
I can read it.
No.
That's not-
You can present factual information.
That's what this is.
Absolutely, that's nothing
You can
wrong with
put
that.
facts out, you cannot, the city employees cannot advocate.
Okay.
The city resources can't be used to advocate, but city resources and city employees are allowed to transmit facts.
Fine. Then, Mr. Mayor, could I read some of this?
I haven't seen it, but it's take your shot.
Thank you. It says, how do we know what is needed? In 2005, the city of Canton commissioned an assessment to define the future fire station needs. In 2012, the city retained a consultant who emphasized the need for 3 additional fire stations. Both of these assessments recommended locations of new fire stations in the general area of Laurel Canyon, Canton Marketplace, and the Bluffs Parkway. The downtown fire station was built in, anybody know? 1928. Due to the age and presence of the asbestos, and significant repairs are overdue, including asbestos abatement and the replacement of windows, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. The estimated cost of the fire trucks is based on prices provided directly to the city from the fire truck manufacturer. What will it cost? A special election will be held March 19th to submit to voters the following question. Shall general obligation bonds in the aggregate amount of $6 million be issued by the city of Canton to finance the acquisition, design, and/or development of up to 3 fire stations to renovate the downtown fire station and to finance the acquisition of new fire vehicles? Use of the bond funds, if approved by the voters, will be Laurel Canyon, $800,000, Canton Marketplace, $800,000, a pump truck, $575,000, Bluff Parkway Fire Station, $1.2 million, aerial device, 75-foot ladder, $800,000, that's a truck, and a pumper for $575,000, downtown fire station renovation, $750,000, and issuance cost of $500,000 for a total of $6 million. Legally, the bond interest cannot exceed, this is a critical point here that you understand, exceed 5.5% per year over the 20-year term of the bond. And the reason they put 5.5 is that we hope to be in the neighborhood of in the low 3s. If we put it at, and I'm just going to suggest, if we put it at 3.5 and it came in at 3.6, then the bond fails. So we have to put the figure of 5.5 in there just so we know we'll be above what will actually be charged. Debt service will be approximately $500,000 per year. The fire bond digest millage rate necessary to service the debt will be approximately 2/3 of 1 mil, approximately $28 per year for each $100,000 of fair market value of your property. Construction of these 3 fire stations will be staged with completion of the 3rd and final station in about 5 years. Once all 3 stations are operating, total operating costs will require a millage rate of approximately 3 mils or approximately $120 per year for each $100,000 of fair market value of your property. In summary, overall better fire protection, faster response time to fire, and considerably lower cost of property. The key here is faster response time. As you get out in the circumference of the city, you're outside of the 5-minute response time, and your insurance rates are in jeopardy when you get outside that 5-minute travel time for the, and due to traffic, although the properties haven't moved, but the traffic is considered a difficulty to get there.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I've got one point of clarification that I'd like to ask Mr. Dyer.
Sure.
If I were at, because he said that we can't advocate for passing of the bond referendum while we're on the payroll. But if I'm, say, at an Elks Club meeting and I'm talking to a group, it's not improper for me to tell that group that I hope you vote for the bond referendum.
I'm not even sure if you're prohibited from doing it here. I've never looked into that.
Okay.
But I don't think an elected official is disallowed. I think you're allowed to
So
advocate.
there's a possibility that, say, at the work session, we could offer a resolution from the council saying, we hope you pass the bond referendum. Would
I don't
that be
know.
legal?
I don't know.
Can you find out by the work session?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the point again is that we can say, we would like for you to support the bond referendum. It doesn't
That's
tell them
the
how to vote. It doesn't tell them how to vote. It said we'd like to support. Now, it's still up to the individual to make that decision. And therefore, that is what I learned in this municipal law course that is the end-all be-all of all learned in the city, right?
Right?
Where you got
So-
your degree?
I got mine in my pocket.
I'll have to admit, there was no law school class that asked me whether an elected official can talk about advocating for a referendum.
Or the opposite.
Or the opposite.
Yeah, we did that.
We did ask.
Okay. And if you would, check into those cases that we're hearing now about, I don't know if it's Fayette County or whatever, school board, where they're promoting and then some citizens sue or whatever, for the elected officials promoting that
They
referendum.
spent money to do it.
They put money.
They spent money to do it.
Well, that's the concept here, is that if you're on the clock, you're spending public funds. When you're away from here, theoretically, you're a lot less likely to, quote, be on that $3,000 a year clock.
At that point in time. That seems less than I.
I think there's no doubt about it, we're on the clock right now.
But it falls back to the point I made earlier. The fact is that we voted, so be it.
All we voted for was to
To
allow
have it.
the citizens to make that choice.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
That's what we voted.
That's right. That's
Not the
correct.
citizens.
And to do that, shows the spirit in which we're trying to do.
Okay, item F is the Bluffs common area fees.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think you're well aware, and the whole council is, that the properties we're trying to acquire in the Bluffs, that we are, someone have an emergency here, that in order to close in an appropriate time, we have to approve or disapprove the maintenance fees for the Bluffs that are required of all landowners. And I guess I'd ask Mr. Wood if he would give me some more specifics on that, so we could bring this to a vote.
$7,000 a year.
Yeah, it's a little over $7,000 a year. It's roughly equivalent to what the county pays for the Bluffs property. It's based on acreage, has nothing to do with building or development values. It has to do with the acreage. And we are plus or minus 20 acres, and the county is plus or minus 20 acres. So it would be, if city council approved it, it would be roughly commensurate to the amount that the county's paying, which would be a little over $7,000 a year.
The land is, we are getting at a very, very attractive price for the location of our fire station there in the Bluffs. It's right across the street from the Cherokee County Conference Center and offices. We will have frontage on the reservoir that will be developed into a park at some time. So I make a motion that we approve the $7,000+ fees for that land.
I think we need to define the precise amount, not.
No, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
What I need to close is just your approval to go forward closing, accepting the assessments under the covenants, because it may be a variable amount.
That's what I.
It may increase through the
It
years.
could decrease or increase, right?
Is that your motion? Is that your motion?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Other discussion? Mr. Cummings?
The concern I have is Mr. Dyer in an email has informed me that he believes that we don't have the legal ability to do this, that we can't legally do this, and he can't find a specific law that prohibits us, but it's one that makes me nervous if he tells me he doesn't think that we legally can do this. So,
Well, let me make one comment. Let me read something here from this case, and I think it says what I have always understood to be the law, Georgia law, is that if a municipality undertakes an obligation that extends beyond a single fiscal year, then a new debt has been incurred within the meaning of the Georgia Constitution and requires voter approval. This is an obligation. It's an ongoing obligation forever, as far as we know. I don't know how we do that. And believe me, I'd like to have that 20 acres at the price, just as, do whatever we need to do, but I don't know how we do it with that outstanding there, that there's a, you just can't obligate again beyond the end of the year. You can't have any debt. And if it is an obligation beyond the end of a fiscal year, in other words, if we can't, at the end of that fiscal year, say we're not going to pay that anymore, then I think we have a debt there that continues. But,
Mr. Chairman?
okay, sir, I can go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, the county did some research on it and have no problem with it. So I gotta say that's a plus. The second thing is,
I said, you say that's a plus?
well,
Okay.
they're a governing body, and they did it. And they aren't worried about it, and they've been up there for.
I didn't say anybody's gotta be worried about it. I'm just saying that's what it said.
No, I'm just saying. Also, I recall that we put a new roof on this building, and we did not pay for that entire project. We carried it over, and we had to carry it over into another year. We did it without a bunch of hoopla, because we made a commitment in 1 year and extended it into another year to be able to pay that thing off. So were we in jeopardy there? No, we did it, and that was some big bucks. So we took on obligations and trying to get this down. Mr. Ken Jimmy has looked at the cost of cutting and mowing and maintaining and all this stuff. We'll come out ahead. So why don't we just go ahead, call for the vote, and let's get this thing over with and get on down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Beers, for it.
I can't give you exact details, but I might reference something for Mr. Dyer, is that the gentleman that taught our class, this issue did come up. And he's the city attorney for Warner Robins. And he just said the laws have been somewhat massaged, altered, or changed, or whatever, to allow for more reasonable things of this nature, to be able to handle those. They just realize that in certain circumstances that you've got to be able to enter into these type of agreements. I don't remember the law, and I don't remember, but I do remember this. He said it can be done.
Well, we are, in this instant, would be obligating future administrations down the road, and it's been always my understanding that you can't do that. But, if this council wants to do it, you can do it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
My memory fails me. On the reservoir, that council approved?
But it was through, the city didn't do that. Canton Building Authority did that, and they had the authority. That's the only reason a lot of these authorities were set up, is because we could not have debt beyond the end of the year.
Point made,
Okay.
point made.
Anyone else?
I'd like to ask Mr. Dyer again, what direction he thinks we would be best suited.
I think you can do what you want. I mean, these issues are subject to challenges later. Somebody's saying to stop you from doing it, I don't see much risk to the city if somebody was to do that. I'm not as convinced that it's a debt, because like with the contract to do repairs after a year, the services were incurred, and this would be each year you would incur, but it may be a debt. The binding future councils would be the one that I would be a little more concerned about, and Mr. Huffman's right. The courts have loosened that up to a great extent. That's why not finding a case about restrictive covenants on property means, ultimately I'm throwing up my hands, but it's not like it's a crime to do it when it says it's illegal to do it. It's subject to challenge in the future.
You couldn't lease a copy.
I weigh that, no, leasing a copy machine has its own statute, and there's a way you can do that. See, that's the problem. There's 3 or 4 different things. The not binding future councils, though, the courts have started saying, look, you can have 3-year contract, you can have 5-year contract, you can have one as long as it's not beyond a current term of office. They've relaxed it, and that's what Mr. Ellington was saying. As I said, it's really just somebody coming in the future and saying, I'm suing to make you stop paying that because you couldn't agree to do it. And if that happens, we stop paying it.
Is this something that you could get more information?
No. I weigh that all against the county's been paying for 7 years and there's been no issue. So I don't know what to make of it. So,
Mr. Mayor, call the question.
Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
All members voted for the motion with the exception of Mr. Cummins. All righty. Under new business, discussion of Cherokee County Board of Commissioners Chairman Aaron's economic growth proposal. Mr. Cummins?
Yeah, I put that on the agenda before we had our presentation from Misty Martin, so I don't really need to have a lot of discussion. The only point that I'd like to bring out is that there's a lot of discussions going on at county level, and in fact, I think they've gone out for bids to totally renovate the house's exterior of the Jones building, and set up an incubator program, and from what we got in our presentation from Misty Martin, a lot of development has gone on in Canton that's been initiated through the county, and in my opinion, this request is a reasonable request, and I'd like everybody here to think about it, and when we get closer to the budgeting, bring it back up for discussion as to whether or not we should participate. I personally think we should participate in it, but that's all I had on that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Excuse me. I agree with Mr. Cummings. It's something that I've always wanted to do, is to be more aggressive in the economic development area. And as you know, we're presently working on a person for economic development here in Canton. I would like to do both. If you allow me a moment to editorialize here, our employees need raises. Our city needs more revenue. One of the quickest ways to get more revenue is bring in new business. And the quickest way to bring in new business is join in and get on board and spend a little money up front. And that would come in the form of economic development. I would want to go ahead with our plans for here, for our person. I think that takes priority over the county. But at the same time, Misty said, and correct me if I heard wrong, please, because Misty said that the commissioner, Buzz, was going to match whatever the cities gave. But I haven't seen that in print, and I don't know what is real and what is not. If it is real, then maybe we should look at it a little closer, because Misty says she cannot participate in many of the events that really gives our county and our city exposure to big business. And that's what we need in order to build some revenues into city coffers, so we can do the things that we want to do, and I know the citizens want to do. Our employees have worked hard, very hard, with fewer people, and we need to take care of them. We do. We need to take care of these people, first and foremost. Thanks, sir.
Jack?
Yeah, I was just asking the city manager here, and I thought my memory served me that we do already give some money to the county for that position. We give about $4,000.
Yes. That's not for that position, though.
Well,
Website.
Website.
Right.
Well, website, but we also, every taxpayer pays some toward that salary, I'm sure. And I'm not, I'm certainly for it. I went down to the presentation of economic development and learned a lot, just to be honest with you. And I think we should try to support them somewhat. I don't know to the tune of $25,000 or what, but I go along with Mr. Huffman. I think we do need to promote it. Also think that this council and the mayor should also be given a leadway to promote it. Lots of cities do that. The city of Alpharetta gives their people about $5,000 to go out and promote the city. And I fought that for some time. I talked to Mr. Huffman about that before. I would like to see us actively go along with that, as well as having our own economic development person. The only way to bring people in here is to be able to afford them to go out and meet people and bring them in. Otherwise, we're just hoping that they come through Canton.
Anyone else? Let me mention one thing I want to say, since you're on that topic, and this has nothing to do with whether we go with that or not, but I thought it was very interesting in our discussion with the director over there, Misty Martin, that the Cherokee Office of Economic Development has worked for the county and for the city for the last 3 years, and have created, the city of Canton has received almost $55 million in new investment and 371 jobs created as a result principally of their efforts. This accounts for approximately 70% of the total amount of capital investments from 2010 to 2012 that they have been involved with. In 2010, Canton received around $6.7 million in capital investments versus the county total county at $14.1 million. In 2011, the city of Canton's capital investments that they worked with, we received about $26.8 million versus $33.9 million in the entire county. In 2012, the city received $21.2 million in capital investments versus $26.3 million. I think this sort of dispels some of the thoughts at some time that, and I think some of us all may have had this thought that they're a county organization and they're going to try to place industry and business in the unincorporated area. But they could care less where it is, to be honest with you. They want, if Canton has a part, if we have the infrastructure and if we have the ability to work with these people, they're going to try to place them here just as much as they're going to place in the industrial park in the county or anywhere else. So I think they are doing a lot with what they have to work with, and I certainly support our participating, and I would not want that to detract from any effort that we have here either.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
Did you say the word support?
That's not a bond referendum.
Look, it'll come down to a vote here for this council to make a decision.
Well, it's not
And
referendum.
and that's speaking in favor of us spending money. Thank you.
Bring it forward.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm gonna go back on my editorial for a minute. As we all know, Northside Hospital the road is being built and they got the permit to break ground, so that's gonna start. And if we support economic development, there's gonna be a lot out there. We can wait and let it grow slowly, or we can put a little money behind it to grow it faster and get buildings in there. It's gonna take a little time to get the word out, or get a better word out, and get the relationships to bring these businesses in here. So, the opportunity is knocking. Our timing could not be better to go forward with this. And that is the quickest way to help our city in many ways. And we do need the funding. So, end of my editorial. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the discussion of the mayor council, I believe that says workshop. Mr. Hutton?
Oh. Yes. I think I sent an email out to, I think I copied everybody on it, about a retreat. And again, I'm going to speak for a moment here, so please forgive me. Most cities and counties and governments have retreats to discuss problems that are issues that go in more in depth. Our last meeting, the mayor got up and gave his statement on his vision, which I greatly accept. But if he was to establish a commission at our next meeting, which I hope you do, that it will take a time for that commission to get together, organize, go out and talk to people and organizations, and then develop a plan and come back and put something together. It might take us an excess of a year before we could see anything to come from that. So a retreat that I'm recommending is one that will I hope will fill the gap between right now and the time that that commission comes back and delivers their vision, or what their recommended vision for the city. So my recommendation is in this retreat that, and I'm addressing mostly council people here, is that we have department heads come in for a half a day, like the streets, public safety, finance, HR, EC development, city manager on organizations. We might not be able to encompass all of those, but we could probably prioritize the three that are most important in the next 12 months, so that we have an idea of what we're going to be working towards. We got a budgetary time coming up in the very, very near future, so we need to discuss all of these in order to plan what we're going to do over the next 12 months. The second part of the day would be a discussion for each plan for the next 12 months on the ones that were addressed earlier. We need to address a plan to ensure that the issues are taking are looked at as they come forth every month during our meetings, that how does that fit with the vision that the mayor has given, and then in the future when we have our commission, how does those issues, how the vision affect those issues, so that we do not lose the vision, that we keep it in front of us. I'd like to add, Susan, for that to be added as a possible item on every agenda, so that it's not forgotten. So anyhow, that would give us an idea of what we need to work on for the next 12 months, to give us an idea of how to better budget when budget time comes around. What month will we do that, Mr. Wood?
We'll need to have adopted the budget in August, so we'll probably be working on it June and July.
June and July. And I'm suggesting that we put a retreat together, which will be close by. We're not going to spend a lot of money. After the bond referendum. So we'll know better whether to proceed how to proceed with that or whether not to. So I'm asking that the council, that we have some input on, or some discussion on this.
I certainly would agree that we need to do a workshop on those items, certainly. And the one thing that I would want to insist on, I think, is that we need to have someone to moderate that, someone to keep that group on, this group on target and on time schedule and so forth, as opposed to just getting up and chatting and back and forth. I think we've got to have someone to guide us in that endeavor. I think that really needs to be done. But
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make one comment, and I don't want it to sound too negative, but I think it was 2011, we had one right here, and we had a whole setup, and I gave the recap to Mr. Huffman. I think we have about 5 or 6 pages in there of a vision for the city, long-term, short-term, long-term goals, short-term goals, and if you look at it, a lot of that stuff hadn't happened. And if you want to put some of that on the agenda as going for the vision, I think maybe we should all look at it again, but you know, I just don't want to come have another meeting and reinvent the wheel.
May I address that?
Sure.
I would agree with that. I don't want to do an exercise that is going to develop into simply an exercise. I would like to put some, for the lack of words, put some teeth into it that like I say, we put it on the agenda every work session, every voting meeting, that we have some input there to keep that in front of all of us. And I don't know if I don't know whether that will work or not, but so many governments use it, and I hear good things come out of it. I would hope that we could come join together. The last couple of weeks, our council and mayor, we worked a little bit better together. I'm hoping that with this, that maybe we're get even a little closer.
well, I think we need to talk about that and maybe and have a little further discussion. I think we want to put it on our agenda for the work session in March too, so that we can talk about it further. But I think we need to spend more time, and I think we need someone to moderate that and might keep us on schedule. My personal feeling is I'd like to see it limited somewhat to the vision that we have, and in conjunction with discussion of our 21-member commission on Canton's future. And because there's a lot of, that commission and group, if it's put together, will have to, kind of play it by ear for a little while to get their feet on the ground, decide where they're going, what their objective really is, how they go about getting it, what do they need to do to get it with, what are the resources they need to accomplish what their objective is. So there's a lot of things there. I think that we could come together on just nothing more than that issue, and that's a big issue, but nothing more than that, and discuss it and maybe lend some assistance and direction, I guess, to this commission that we have. And to me, it would be worth it if we could just do that. And everybody then would have an idea, are we talking about a year or 2 or 3? I think we're talking about at least a year, as Mr. Huffman indicated, to come up with anything. And then that would be, even that, in my opinion, that commission would be an ongoing thing. Every so often meet again, every 6 months or something, to update what's there and see, maybe follow and make sure we're on the right track, that we are following that vision as well. And they need to let us know, kind of checks and balances. But
Mr. Mayor, would you be so kind as to send us a copy of your speech last week?
Miss Susan has that, she can send that to you. Sure.
That group is going to, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, we are required to resubmit our community plan next year, in 2014, to the state?
I'm trying to get a determination. I was reading the new DCA guidelines today, and there's a bit of conflict because we do our annual updates because of the impact fee program as to whether we have to do a 5-year update or not. I've got a call into one of the folks in the DCA planning office because the rules and guidelines that I was reading just earlier today kind of conflicted as to whether we would have to do a 5-year update on our
If you could get
comprehensive
some
plan.
clarification on that is a template for what this commission can be working on. It doesn't limit it to that, I'm not suggesting that, but certainly it seems to me like it ought to be incorporated into that.
It would be a great document for the commission to have as they move forward through their process.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The 20-year horizon 2030 that I spent 9 to 10 months of my life working on. Again, I forget when we did the 2030 plan 4 years ago.
We worked on it in 2008 and it was adopted in 2009 by the
Right.
city council.
That plan's still laying out there. That's a 20-year plan. It covers all the bases. And then we have 5-year update that you're referring to. So we've had plenty of plans, horizons. That was called a horizon. We had a council retreat at golf course, clubhouse. Laid out, we had instructors there guiding us through. And then we had the one that you referred to just a while ago when we had it up here with the postings, and the stickers and all the wonderful stuff. I'm looking forward to having this commission get involved, and I'd like to drag out the 20-year plan, bring out the other one. I don't recall if you had anything from that retreat up there at the golf course.
We have a recap.
Pardon?
We did get a recap on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that's-
have that all tied in and give that to this commission, because there is some excellent material in there, and as either you or Mr. Wood referred to as kind of a guideline to get this thing going. But we've had plenty, and now the problem is executing it.
Let me mention one thing that Susan and I learned today is that we all got 6 continuing ed hours for that retreat up there. At the, I guess it's the one up at golf course. Did y'all know that?
No.
It's actually, if you look on your listing, she's got a summary of each one of them, and you got 6 hours for that. And we probably would get 6 more hours for another one, actually.
If you have an Institute of Government.
Right, if you have someone from the Institute of Government in Athens do the facilitation, which is what we had before. Let me ask one question, Ken, that 2030 deal, that was a result of what requirement?
That's requirements of the Georgia Planning Act of 1989.
Yeah, that was a requirement, and I tell you, I see what I envisioned, so to speak, as being something entirely different from that.
Well, what it has in there is.
Well, I'm sure it has some good information, don't get me
That's what I'm
wrong,
talking
right?
about.
Well, but it's more than good information. Unless we comply with that act, we don't qualify for road paving grants, we don't qualify for CDBGs, we don't qualify for streetscape, so we don't qualify for this GFA loan, for this wastewater treatment plant, so it's more than just a plan that's put on the shelf. If we're not in compliance with that planning act, even if it's changed, then it endangers our funding potential with the state.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
in reference to your State of the Union statement you made, you were talking about, I think, Green River, or referring to our river.
Yeah.
That was on the plan 10 years prior to us sitting down and going through that. That's been on the docket for 10 years, back in the 08, the 09. It's still on the docket. That's part of that document. So there are things in there that.
You're talking about the river walk, actually, aren't you?
No, it was actually, it's from Bowling Park, a trail, a green trail, a river trail.
Yeah, that was a kind of a walk, yeah,
And
right.
it was $100,000 dedicated every year for that.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Good. Mr. Patton, Mr. Beresford was on a committee that worked for 9 months on a program for 2030. What did I work on?
It was the same comprehensive plan. You were on the citizens committee that worked on the comprehensive plan in 2008.
We worked together, I don't remember seeing him. Were we on the same committee?
Yes, sir.
That's the reason we're doing a new one right there. Again, I've kind of got a feeling and understanding that a lot of, like you, as you indicate, a lot of those planning requirements have been changed.
Yes, sir.
In fact, I'm not even sure they require some governments to do planning that has to meet certain criteria to go, you know, to mesh with the county and with the state, and I mean the region, the state, and so forth. Are you aware that some of that has been
They
changed?
have made changes to the overall planning process, Mr. Mayor, council members. They have relaxed some of the rules and guidelines. One of the unfortunate things of the city of Canton, Cherokee County, where it's located, the majority of everything that we did in 2008 is still in effect and are requirements for us to continue doing because we're in a metropolitan planning organization. We still have to do the transportation element because Cherokee County is a U.S. House and Urban Development entitled community for CDBG. We still have to do housing, but they have relaxed some of the guidelines, if you will, in regards to comprehensive planning and all the elements for a lot of communities.
All right. Anything else? Yeah. I guess we're now to the city manager's report. You got anything else? All right. I would mention, follow up on what Mr. Beresford was saying, and what I had mentioned in the a few weeks ago was I really think we need to begin in earnest to take a look at an Etowah River Protection Act, which is something different than this Greenway or whatever it is. This is something that would protect that and should be incorporated, I think, in our overall unified code. But it's not going to be simple. I mean, I think that we could ask our city manager at the proper time to get with Mr. Patton and members of the ARC, who I know have been involved in this in some cases. But we need to make certain, and what this actually does, it does put tighter restrictions, particularly on properties that are located within X number of feet or distance from the bank of the river. It doesn't prevent development from that occurring, but what it does, it shifts a higher level of review for those within that district, within that area. And even though you know, they can get zoning changes or they can build and develop where it's physically possible, but they have to go through another level of review. And I know, like the ARC, the Chattahoochee River, if somebody comes in and wants to build a house on some of that property within there, they actually have to go through the ARC for a different review. Once they submit to their county, I guess, or their city, then it goes to the ARC for further review to make sure that they're complying with what needs to be done to protect that river. And I think we don't need to drop that. We need to move forward. We need to ask the city manager to take a look at what we need to do to begin that process. We can drop it. We'll be talking about this 5 years from now if we want to. I won't probably, and some of you may or may not. But I can tell you we need to be moving forward with it now. I would also want to say, and to follow up sort of little repetition, I'd like to have for your submission, or at least have your 3 names for the Commission on Canton's Future by March 7th, which is the next meeting, so that we can have them all put together and let them know who they are. Be sure you've talked to your particular not recommendation, but your appointees actually. Also, I think we don't need to drop this branding of the city. The city needs an identity from which to work. And I think this is the kind of thing that we can work out how do we do this in something like a workshop that Mr. Huffman was talking about. There's several things that we need to do like that. We definitely need to continue that effort. We need to get some professional assistance and let that person work to garner in even public ideas and suggestions and come up with really an identity for our city. And as we move toward a vision, I think that identity will play a major part in how we evolve or develop over into the future. So I'm probably going to keep saying that until we get something working, because I think we definitely need to do that. Basically, I think that I had about the economic development, but I think we're already discussed that. So, anybody have any comments you'd like to make? Yes.
I just would like to make one comment on, and it kind of goes in conjunction with your commission on Canton's future and the branding of the city, because I remember a couple of months ago, a gentleman who owns an Exxon station on 140, Asian fella, I can't remember his name, came up here and he said the same thing.
Right.
He said, we need to get a brand for the city, we need to have something special about it.
It is, absolutely.
And, you know, I think maybe sometimes this branding could be just like branding cattle here, we need a hot poker someplace.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. I was down in Mr. Patton's office just yesterday, and he and I have had discussions off and on about this, and he pulled out, in fact, I think I got it back here in my case, a company, there are a lot of companies that do this, but he had one particular out of Nashville. They're not cheap, but they have got some examples of what they can do, and we might want to bring one or two of these type people in to present to the council, but before we bring them in and start spending money, we need to have our vision so we can communicate that to them, because they're going to ask us. We got to communicate to them, then they will tell us how, or they will implement that branding, or maybe they might suggest a little change here and there, because they've been doing it.
Mr. Mayor, well,
Yes.
one other comment. I think when we start getting into developing a brand and a logo for the city, we need to be sure that we have our economic development director on board so that he or she is committed to that project and to that way to do it.
Okay.
Can I just say, I don't know Mr. Resendez, this is the first night I've seen him. I'm not sure, I think there may be a verse in the Bible that says something like a little child shall lead them. I've sat up here for 2 hours and watched this beautiful young lady who has been extraordinarily well behaved, and she sets an example that probably all the rest of us ought to subscribe to sometimes. But I hope you'll buy her an ice cream cone on the way home. She's really been well behaved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.